All right, this is it. This is the wrap up. For me, this has been 11 days making these recordings. So it's about 7:38 in the evening on December 22nd, 2021. Thank you very much. If you have watched this entire report, this entire presentation, it's been about 2.5 hours. So 2.5 hours for you, about 11 days for me. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you for joining me. In this last segment, I'm going to be talking about the invitations. If something got sparked for you during this presentation, during this conversation, I want to hear from you. I'd like to have that conversation and move this project to the next phase. So for me, as I had mentioned earlier, I'm going from really exploring fellowship culture and inquiry clusters and starting to develop the data about what is it really going to take to change the entire financial system? What is it really going to take to create economic equality? So I don't want to give the impression that I have all the answers or that that I can do this by myself. I can't. This requires everybody's input. Somebody asked me a couple of days ago if I was ready for some pushback on this, and my honest answer is I would love pushback on this because there's been crickets, nothing but silence for the past couple of years. But now I've been aligning with the right people over the last 2-3 years, especially, and starting to deepen those conversations. So I'm very grateful that you have spent the last 2 hours with me. And in a little bit, I'll talk about how to make those 2 hours count towards, what we've been talking here, what we've been talking about here. So again, my journey into 2022 will be just building the data, having the conversations, and starting to find out from others what is it going to take, because there's not one answer, there's not one path. The most productive way is all of us coming to the table, and rather than competing over ideology, just unearthing the values and how to treat each other as we move forward in integrating all of our answers together. And the more time we spend doing that, the better. The better. So again, the objective doesn't matter. It's how we treat each other along the way. And that is the way that 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. And then, just take that pattern. If that happens every day, it happens in 20 days till we reach 1 million people. If it happens every month, then it takes about a year or 2 years to reach 1 million people. It doesn't matter. All that matters is starting with appreciation, with that appreciation conversation. So I'm going to go into my, my final bit here, and let's pull up the screen, and we'll go to the slideshow. And this is the final phase. All right, going into the 11th hour. Okay, so what happens next? It's small things over time. So I know, something like this might sound very grandiose, a quadrillion dollar GDP, which when distributed out evenly means that, everybody can have their needs met. And that only happens just one conversation at a time. It'd be great if some financier would like to drop in and pay me for my time to do this. I would love to explore that possibility, but it just starts with appreciation. And if you look past the people who are right there in your inner circle, you missed the boat. It's about who's there, who are you working with, how do you unearth your values, and how do you live your values? So I asked the question, maybe these 6 conversations, if we just observe them, it will naturally lead us to a place where everything shifts. So, if something sparked for you during this presentation, I invite you to contact me. Let's have that appreciation conversation. Let go of agenda. Let's just talk about what we appreciate in each other. And then that's where the possibilities emerge. And out of possibility comes invitation. Out of invitation comes healthy dissent. Out of healthy dissent comes responsibility. And out of responsibility comes commitment and action. So collaboration over competition. So in the beginning of this presentation, I said a quadrillion dollar GDP is impossible in a competitive environment. But in a collaborative environment, not only is it possible, I think it's inevitable. When I was working in the financial industry, and I went to school for business as well, to describe compound interest, what was asked of all of the students in the class was, what would you rather have? Would you rather come to me and I'll just give you a six-figure, $100,000 income? Or would you rather have the $1 investment that will compound upon itself over the next 20 days, so 20 times? So, so think that through a moment. Would you rather have $100,000 for the whole year? Or would you rather have the $1 that compounds upon itself for the next 20 days? Well, that's, $1 compounded upon itself is that 1,048,576 that we talked about. And, conversely, the only way really to get that, to make that a reality, I think is just openly share it and just ask each other, well, what's it going to take to invest our time in what we're passionate about? What's right? What is the right thing to do? And that's how that becomes possible. The $1 investment that compounds upon itself 20 times becomes possible, when we're honest with each other, when we're transparent with each other, because it's not about extracting or taking away from someone else. It's building everybody's value up here. And, I know what a lot of people would say, if everybody could afford everything, wouldn't that just devalue everything? No, it would change the way we treat each other, because now we don't have that artificial barrier of finance and money, to cause us to treat each other differently. So we're going to have to rely more on social capital, relying more on time as an asset, and really, really aligning with values. So next year, depending on the outcome of this year, as I'm building data towards this, my 2023 will be about how do we make that $1 compounded investment accessible to everybody. Not there yet, so that's why I don't really ask for money or anything like that. If somebody would like to finance me, I would welcome that. I'm open to that. But there'll be a time, I foresee, within a year or two, where we'll take a look at the time that was invested in this project and create the retroactive investment where, for those who have participated, it's a minimal financial investment. I can even give ideas on how to create roundups or spare change to make that investment, so it doesn't really, cost anybody anything financially. But on the top, from the top down, the only people who can afford those $1 million budgets will be the people at the top, will be the people who run the financial industry. So I often think of it as this, getting into this doesn't mean you're going to make a 7-figure income or like that. I don't want you to think of it that way. I want you to start thinking in terms of, if you were in charge of $1 million budget, what is the right thing to do with it? So that's the invitation to talk about how do we make that possible. So I would invite you to join a time bank. It doesn't have to be the Karmic margin call time bank, but you can log in our time bank at karmicmargincall.com. There's a area that says click here for an application. You can fill that out, and you can claim these 2 hours, as a service provided. So that's how you start to build, that equal partnership economy, that regenerative economy, by logging those hours. So I would invite you that if you want to continue this conversation, join the time bank. There will be a request for a $25 annual fee. That's that doesn't have to, that's negotiable. So I understand that these are hard times, And I would like to have that conversation about how do we make those hours count so that everybody gets to that $1 compounded 20 times. So yep, so please join our time bank, and you can claim the hours that you spent listening to me as a service provided. That being said, it is my intention to share this presentation with all of the other time banks through the ourworld.org, the timebanks.org organizations. If you are a part of a nonprofit effort, I would like to speak with you as well. So how do we take this very competitive sector of nonprofits where we're all kind of competing for time, attention, and funding, and how do we all kind of, synergize our efforts together? So if there's a cause that you wish to share about, let's have an appreciation conversation about that. Yeah, we talked about the 6 projects that I had started in the last year or two, and will continue into 2022. If any of the 6 projects that you heard me speak about today, last 11 days, spark something, just let me know, and we would love to include you in some of those conversations. So again, there's the deep democracy conversation where we're starting to talk about regenerative economies. What is it going to take to go from extractive to regenerative? There's the bridge conversation, which is about mental health, the arts, crossing generational gaps. We want to speak to younger people. We want to speak to, our elders as well. Also core fellowships. I think one of the most important things when getting to participating and facilitating, going into that mode where 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, creating a core fellowship around anything that is passionate to you, that you have a passion for. That's another project that I would love to help support you in creating a core fellowship. The Collaborative Innovation Institute, we're talking about the unification of facilitation. My personal intentions with that is to be more involved with peace negotiation and conflict resolution. There's the time bank conversation itself. I'm on a board of a time bank in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. I would love to talk with more leaders from other time banking organizations, and just start to have those appreciation and possibility conversations. As if there is an interest in shifting the entire financial system, through time banking. And then finally, the WINfinity conversation. So, a lot's happening, on that front. I believe the human learning services, we're going to be having discussions with that network of the human learning services, and a lot of big things happening in 2022 through WINfinity. So, so those are the projects that I talked about in this presentation. And if something sparks and you want to learn more about that, let's have that appreciation conversation, and you can build more hours that way as well. And it was my intention to take questions from LinkedIn and Facebook, which is where I'm pretty active at the moment. But I realized looking at those questions, they do seem very jargon filled and very specific. So I'm not going to ask those or address those in this presentation. But I would be interested in anybody who enjoys social media to you can earn hours by participating in conversations on social media platforms like LinkedIn or Facebook or minds.com. We do have an account there as well. So just bringing this conversation out and helping people to understand it. And I will say, look, I understand this was a lot of terrain that we covered in the last 2.5 hours. Whatever lands for you, let's just start there and have the appreciation conversation. So that's it. Those are the invitations on where this could go. So I'll leave it up to you, please. My door is always open. I don't know what my commitments are going to be like over the next couple weeks into the next couple months. But I'm learning to delegate better. So let's have that conversation. I would love to hear from you. And we're going to wrap up here. Again, we're going to give the final Yeah, title page there. This was the Karmic Margin Call Project 2021 year-end report powered by WINfinity. I am Michael Schuman, the presenter. And this was also the presentation about how the $1 quadrillion GDP becomes possible through time banking. So please feel free to send me any questions. My email address is admin@karmicmargincall.com. You can also visit karmicmargincall.com, which is part of my Road Counselor blog, and you can apply to be a part of our time banking efforts. So thank you very much for joining me, and have a happy new year.